Hi everybody, I wanted to make a quick video showing the latest radio that I got from Benny Volkspanzer in Germany. If you're not familiar with Benny, he's the guy that makes modern replica German World War II military radios that incorporate modern technology on the inside. An FRS radio that also has GMRS frequencies on it. I think in Europe they just call them FRS, but in the United States they differentiate between FRS and GMRS. FRS stands for Family Radio Service, no license required. And GMRS stands for General Mobile Radio Service, and there is a license required, but it's just a $5 fee to the FCC, no test, and they issue you your call letters, so super easy. Now, before I go any further, I wanted to point out that on all the other radios that Benny's made, just because of the nature of the radio and everything, the antennas on all those have the typical double, plug jack like that. And that's the antenna, ground and lead. But on this one, the 15W S.E.b, the antenna, lead, and ground actually have their own jacks. And in this case, fortunately, they happen to coincide with a modern PL259, which is what goes on the end of all, pretty much all standard coax. It's not any weird plug, so that's good. This one is a male, this one's female. But since ground and lead are separated, I just spliced in the end here. This is RG8X, I believe, cable. And so I just spliced in a female PL259 with cable going to, it's ground only, going to here, the ground on this cable. So now I've got ground actually on both of these, but since the lead is only hooked up to this jack here, I've got lead and ground separated going to a single cable out. And then also, in case anybody cares, for the purpose of this video, I'm not running through an antenna. I'm actually running in through this dummy load, which is a resistor that converts radio transmissions to heat. So really it's kind of like a heat sink, but it's rated at 25 watt, and the internal radio is only about 8 watts, so that's overkill. So I have the 15W S.E.b, and then my test radio over here is one of Brad Blondette's Feld FUB1s, and that's set up to the same frequency. I'm using channel 6 right now for that. So let's start by, well, actually I'll start with this. On all of Benny's radios, the internal radio has a battery. So you can transmit without having to have external power. The power should be 12 volt DC coming in like right down here. You can see the plug. But if you don't have that handy, you can transmit and receive for a little while just off the internal battery. Now to charge that, this button up here on the far left, you push that, and on this meter there's a little light that comes on, either red or green. Red means it needs to charge or is charging, and green means it's topped off. So I don't know if you can see that. When I first turn it on, it flicks red and then turns green. So anyway, it's not a super bright light, so if you can't see that in the video, I apologize, but it is there. So let's go ahead and turn this on. I have it set to channel 6 right now. This switch down here is the main power.
6.
So here we are on channel 6. If I want to change to a different channel, this knob right above it.
7, 8, 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
So that's all set up, ready to go. This one is set up also on channel 6 right now, so if I transmit from here to here, test 1 2, check 1 2, test. Sorry for the feedback. And then going from this unit to this unit, test 1 2, check 1 2, test. So everything's good there. The next feature is the one that really sold me on this unit is his brand new feature for the telegraphy or Morse code key. I have my German key over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn, the main power has to be on for this to function. Right now this switch down here is set to TN. I'm going to turn it down to TG, and as I turn it, you'll see a blue light come on this meter right up here. There we go. And there's the blue light. And if you heard, as soon as I did that, the channel got locked down. You could hear it come on this speaker. Here, I'll do it again. Okay, it's off. Now it's on. So this key is live. And then to shut it off, because right now I've still got the channel locked down, I have to turn it back to TN so that someone else could send and receive on that frequency, because otherwise it's like a live mic. It locks down the channel. So that's the key feature. Another thing that he added, which I thought was interesting, because so if you and your buddy have the same radio set up and you're using a key and everything, but you want to be able to tell each other apart, or someone, third parties listening, that sort of thing. I'll turn the key back on. So listen what happens when I turn this dial. This actually changes the pitch of your key, so that you can tell if someone was listening to you, they could tell which station you are just from your pitch. I thought it was a cool feature. I'm a total novice at CW, so for me, I can't just rattle off a bunch of stuff. But at Bletchley Park, the girls that they had trained to listen to the German radio operators, they could tell each operator by his signature, and everybody has their own signature when they use a key, and so they could tell their guy just by the way he used the key. I'm not anywhere near that good, and I think a lot of guys getting into this would need to learn. So in the meantime, what this does is it gives the opportunity to if different operators set their CW pitch at different pitches, it makes it easier to tell who's talking just from that. Another cool feature about the CW is CW is a amateur radio term for telegraphy key, but another cool feature about that is that suppose that I'm going to unplug this so I can't monitor what I'm actually hitting over here on the key. Benny put in a small speaker behind the faceplate so that you can still hear yourself, because you wouldn't have a monitor radio right next to the unit if you're out in the field. You just have this unit. So it's already hard enough to, if you're not pretty good at CW, I think you have to be probably pretty darn good to be able to transmit without being able to hear yourself. It'd be like being totally deaf and being able to talk clearly. So he put in a small speaker so you can still hear yourself. I've unplugged this unit, so now we're just going to hear it coming off of the internal speaker. That's on. So it was quiet, but you could hear it, and it makes a huge difference because it helps me know what I'm doing or not doing correctly. So that's the CW feature for the key, and the key plugs in over here on right above the power. Now this other feature, I'm going to plug this one back in here. So the speaker's back on in this one. Another feature that he added that I didn't know he was going to do until right before he shipped it. So over here we have the two jacks for headphones or speaker or whatever. Well, over here on the other side of the microphone, there's another 2-prong jack. Excuse me. So if I plug that in over here, now this speaker's going into here, and I'm going to turn on this switch right over here.
Carbol, hier Carbol 1. Takt 12 Uhr niedergekämpft. Ende. Camillo, hier Plato. Bin abgesessen. Greife an, erbitte Feuerunterstützung. Ende. Titania, hier Camillo. Wir greifen an. Erbitten Feuerschlag auf.
So if you're doing a display or you just want to have some German radio traffic for ambiance, he put in the small MP3 with a loop of German traffic, and I think he said it goes for about 20 minutes. I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, so I don't know, but that's great because it's not like you're going to hear the same guy say the same thing every minute and a half. But this is unaffected by pretty much everything else on here except the power. It has to have the power turned on to be able to do that. Here, I'll show you. Oh, my mistake. So the radio is turned off right now, but this is still going, so it draws power independently. See, learned something new. But the other cool thing is that because this is independent, I was going to point out that you can still transmit using the radio and have this on. Like if you had a separate speaker going out wherever, you could still have your headphones plugged in here and transmit and receive while this is going on in the background. Test 1 2, check 1 2, test. Oh, I have the speaker. I have the speaker on over there. So if I took the speaker, okay, so now I've got both speakers plugged in. One of them is coming, the MP3 is playing, and then this other speaker is going to go over here. But I'm basically transmitting to this radio. Test 1 2, check. Test 1 2, check. So that way you can still operate and use the radio while that is playing in the background. The volume of the MP3 is not affected by the volume right here, though. It's completely independent. But anyway, I wanted to show you guys this. This is such a nice option because a real 15 WSEB, if it was if you had the wherewithal to put together, reconstitute an original and get it running, you'd have to, have somebody else that has one so that you guys could talk to each other. But on top of that, since it's in the 3 to 4.8 megahertz range, which is like 80 meters, you would have to either have it a general licensed, advanced licensed, or amateur extra license, which are the top 3 licenses. A technician grade, which is what I have, I can't use 80 meters. I'm not authorized on 80 meters except to do CW. There's that. The other thing too that I wanted to point out, I would be remiss if I did not say this, is that using CW on GMRS or FRS frequencies here in the United States is not authorized. So that was another reason why I wanted to use the dummy load and not actually be transmitting. But when you're out in the field, the range of these things is not the greatest to begin with. And even if you set up a 30-foot antenna or something like that, you're still not going to have a lot of range, a lot of propagation. So it's up to you, but just throwing that out there. And it's a lot of fun. I am afraid to see with what he comes out with next, because then I'm going to want that. But it's just really a lot of fun. And if you are thinking of getting one, I can tell you that I'm very happy with this. And he was very communicative during the whole process, so I knew where it was at and what he was doing, and how close it was to being finished. So he communicates really well. Right now, I believe he's also working on an FUD2, which are super popular with reenactors for one reason or another. I think he'd finished one and was going to start working on some other ones, but I don't know where he finds the time to do all this stuff. Lastly, it came with a cover, which is, this is heavy. It's not flimsy or cheap. This is a nice cover. And the case itself is heavy gauge metal, and he painted it the way I wanted, which was the dark gray. But anyway, thought you might be interested, and big thumbs up to Benny.